So, Quirky Orc says one of my problems is knowing when to go for the board and when to go face. So, we've kind of talked about various aspects of that all night, but let's really talk about that right now. So, when I look at whether or not to attack the opponent's face, the first thing I do every turn is, do I have enough damage to kill him? So what do I have lethal? Do all the minions, that damage added up, plus any charge minions or any spells in my hand, if all that stuff equals a dead opponent, then that's obviously the first thing you do. The second reason I would go face is if the opponent is going to make the trade for me. So is there a situation where they feel it's more advantageous for... So say this Yeti had only 2 health. If I attack this Crocolisk, I'm attacking I'm using 4 attack to kill a 2 health minion. And he's using only 2 attack to kill my 4 attack minion, so it's much more advantageous for me to use that 4 attack on his face, because he's likely going to make that trade next turn, and then I'll be out that 4 damage that I could have gone and hit him with. The last reason I go face is if the minion's going to die and it's not going to kill the opponent minion. So say in this particular instance, the reverse here. We've got a River Crocolisk that's a 2/2, and my guy here, this Yeti, is a 4/5. Unless I've got something in my hand that does 3 additional damage, there's no reason for this Crocolisk to attack this Yeti, because it's just going to die. So you're better off just doing the 2 damage to my face and hoping that, something else comes along, or your next minion maybe has 6 attack. It's one of those ogres that's a 6/7, and then that can kill this thing without any problem. So those are all the reasons that I would go face. Now, when I would trade, when I start trading on the board is if their damage, all the minions on the board, is going to kill me. Like, literally, not necessarily thinking about spells that might be in his hand, though that's a consideration sometimes, but just looking at the board, if he had 30 damage on board, I've got 30 health, I need to kill something to make sure that I stay alive. So that's the first reason. Second thing is free kills. Situations like this where if it's like maybe like a 3/3 can kill a 2/2 and still remain alive, especially when you're a priest where you can heal a minion, and so it's like you didn't even take any damage. Those are considered free kills, and a lot of times you just want to take those because, again, what you're doing then at that point is you're limiting the number of options that an opponent has for ways of taking out your minions, or ways that it's going to, be able to cause damage. Third reason I would trade is if it then makes really awkward trades for the opponent, then I would make a trade. A lot of times, like last game, you saw where the option, there were 2 minions up, and then I had a taunt totem. If I kill one of his minions that can kill the taunt totem, then the other minion can't attack one of my guys, any guy that he wants. So I kill one of his 2 guys, then more than likely he's going to have to use a minion on the board to attack the taunt, and then he doesn't have any more minions, potentially. So if he suddenly then has to use 2, 3 minions to attack and kill one of my minions, or he has to use one minion that has a lot more attack than my minion's health. Making the trades awkward for the opponent really does make it a lot better for you to, or that's a really good reason to want to make a trade. Finally, the last reason, and this one particularly applies to like paladins and hunters, is if it limits their burst potential. So what we're talking about there is if a paladin has one of those silver hand recruits on board, it's just a 1/1. You think, oh, it's just a 1/1, it's not that big a deal. Paladins have a lot of cards that can buff their minions. Things like Blessing of Kings, which is a 4-mana card that gives any minion +4/+4. Suddenly that 1/1 is a 5/5 and can do a lot more damage than it could just a moment ago, and suddenly takes a lot more resources to kill. So if that minion's not there as a 1/1, then it's, it limits their potential burst. Same with beasts for hunter. A lot of times things like Kill Command is a 3-mana card that does 3 damage, but if there's a beast on board, it does 5 damage. So you've now reduced the burst potential of a hunter by 2 just by taking out a beast that happens to be on the board at the time. It's little things that you kind of pick up, but it definitely, those are reasons. So things like killing the beasts when you play a hunter, or killing all those 1/1 silver hand recruits, or removing a divine shield perhaps when it's not necessarily the greatest trade on board, could potentially end up saving you in the long run, because you'll end up having a much bigger problem on your hands otherwise. So those are all the reasons that I would trade if given the option. So we've gone through now all the reasons that you'd go face. So if you've got lethal, if your opponent is going to make the trade for you, or if the minion's just going to die and not really do much in the way of damage to the opposing minion, then just send all those to face. When you trade is if you're gonna die if you don't kill some of their minions, if they're free kills, if it creates awkward trades, and then if it limits the burst potential. Those are the reasons when you trade. So that's just at a high level. Those are the things that you think about when you think about going face and when you think about trading. So let's go back to this game.